Could it be possible that the Bible is true? Well, how do we have any sense that something is true or not? And the answer is that we look at the evidence. I could tell you, the Bible is true, you must just believe it. And somebody from another religion might say the same thing, and then they're making competing claims, and so you just have to utterly blindly accept. And then how do you choose, right? And so what's the way that we make reasonable decisions? What if somebody came to you and said, "Oh, have I got an investment for you? I'm not going to tell you how long you have to invest your money. I'm not going to tell you what the return is going to be, but it's good. And you just need to accept that investment on blind faith, and I'll take a cashier's check right now." How many people are going to make that investment? Well, not too many. You're going to want to see some facts. You're going to want to see some history, right? You're going to want to see some documentation. Okay. In the same way, how does a jury know whether somebody likely committed a crime or not? Because the jurors weren't there. And so they have to look at evidence, and one of those forms of evidence is eyewitness testimony, okay? And so there's a field called textual criticism, and what they do is they look at ancient documents. They compare two things. Number one, they compare the span of time that lapsed between when the writer wrote the work and the earliest manuscript that we have available to us, right? And so if there's not very much time, like let's say that I write a book today and then I publish it tomorrow, well, boy, there's not a whole lot of time to pass for wild tales and myths and legends to grow up, right? But what if I write a book and then it's copied and copied and copied, and then some of those manuscripts are lost, and then the earliest copy that they have is 1,000 years later? Well, heck, I mean, we don't have those intermittent copies, and so how are we supposed to know whether it was changed or not? Well, I'm going to give you a list of authors and the time span between when it was written and the earliest manuscript that we have. And these authors are accepted by scholars and historians as true and accurate, and nobody believes that the work was tampered with or anything like that. Okay? Tacitus, 1,000 years. Caesar, 1,000 years. Plato, 1,200 years. Herodotus, 1,300 years. Aristotle, 1,400 years. Homer, 500 years is the shortest one in this list. The second thing, and all that time has passed, and scholars believe that what they wrote is probably true. How about the number of copies, right? Because if we have a lot of different copies of eyewitness testimony, and then also particularly those copies are distributed around geographically, some in Africa, some in Asia, some in Europe, and then we know, well, if somebody was going to try and change one of the manuscripts, right, then we could compare all the different manuscripts and we could see what manuscripts were changed, possibly when they were changed and how they were changed, right? And of course, the more manuscripts we have, the more evidence we have to be able to do that with. Well, Tacitus, only 20 copies, okay? Caesar, 10 copies. Plato, 7 copies. Homer, 643 copies. Again, no historian, very, very few to no historians or scholars suggest that these works were tampered with in any way, shape, or form. The New Testament, okay, 23 years, right? And so the important point of that low number of 23 years is that the eyewitnesses who personally experienced the events that are testified to in the New Testament, they were still alive. And so whenever different manuscripts of the New Testament were published at that time, they could easily say, hey, this didn't happen, right? The number of copies, there are more than 24,000 manuscripts. And so of ancient documents, the New Testament is absolutely, without question, even a skeptical scholar will admit this, that the New Testament is without parallel to the number of manuscripts that testify to its content. And do those manuscripts agree? Manuscripts from Syria, manuscripts from Africa, manuscripts from Greece, manuscripts from Persia, manuscripts in the Latin language. Do these manuscripts agree with each other that the basic doctrines are the same and they haven't been changed over time? And so the answer is yes. And so if scholars are, if somebody is comfortable that these other people that I have mentioned, Caesar and Homer and Plato and Aristotle, if they're comfortable that those works are accurately demonstrate what the author originally wrote, then how much more so should we be comfortable with the fact that the New Testament has not been changed and has accurately represented what the original eyewitnesses claimed?